Okay, my name is Edward F. Foley, Sr., and they call me Ted Foley. I live at 65 Copley Street in Auburn, New York, 13021.
And how old are you?
79.
So you were born what year?
Born in 1931.
So you're a youngster.
Yeah, I'll be 80. I'll be 80 this year in December.
You look good for 80.
Oh, thank you.
When did you enlist in the military?
1951, February of 51.
And you did that to avoid being drafted.
Yes,
Okay.
and to serve my country.
You didn't want to be in the Army.
I didn't want to be in the Army.
Okay. So you joined the Air Force, and were they promising you any specialty area?
No, but I spent about, they gave us a series of aptitude tests. I took basic at Sampson Air Force Base, and they spent all day on a testing arrangement, and you were rated from 1 to 9 on various different codes. And I scored high in electronics, several others. So I was looking forward to electronics, and they sent me to Biloxi, Mississippi for electronics training, elementary. And then we were allowed to sign up, but it didn't make any difference what you signed up for. They sent you where they wanted you. And I ended up at Lowry Air Force Base studying an airborne radar set, which did nothing in the jets but measure the distance you were from the target, and it provided a reticle to picture the airplane in.
I heard Neil say something about Lowry too.
Yeah, he probably took electronics or took some testing some training at Lowry.
The same place you did.
Yeah.
You didn't know him though; it was different.
No,
right?
didn't know him. Yeah, that was a fun time. Lowry, Denver, Colorado.
What was there a name for your unit or a designation or something?
Well, just in the Air Force, 429th, I think it was, Fighter Bomber Squadron.
429th.
429th Fighter Bomber Squadron. There was no.
Did you rotate around from place to place? You went from basic training, boot camp. Where'd you do that?
Sampson Air Force Base, and then I went to Biloxi, Mississippi, and then I went to Lowry Air Force Base, and from there I had some time at home and got shipped to Korea. And well, actually, I didn't get shipped to Korea. I got shipped to Japan, to Misawa, Japan. But they were flying missions from Misawa to southern Japan, and from there to Korea. So they moved the whole base to Korea. And it was interesting. I was on advance party. We were able to build the tents. And,
what would you like to? Any stories you like to share about your basic training or any training you had? Any stories?
Basic. No, I pretty much had a good situation. Pulled KP a few times. That's about all.
KP meaning what?
Kitchen police.
And what'd you do?
Wash dishes, help the cooks, wash pots and pans. The problem was we didn't mind being on assigned KP, but it was a 24-hour stint. They'd send you there late at night, and you wouldn't get off until the next morning at the same time.
Was it a voluntary KP?
No.
So how'd you get KP?
Your squadron or group was selected. Your flight was selected as you're on KP, and you report.
Okay, it was your time to serve.
Your time to serve. Yeah. And
is there any basic training? Any other basic training stories you like to talk about? Anything?
No, there was one late in my career. I was stationed at Bangor, Maine, in Bangor Air Force Base, and I served on, I was a buck sergeant by then, 3 stripes, and I served on a committee with the cooks to determine what the meals were going to be. The government had a set of meals they're going to serve you, but they were heavy starch and meat in the middle of the week, and there would be one right after another, like 3 heavy meals in a row, and nothing on Sunday. So we were able to take the allotted money, which is like $1.10 a day, and apply it so that there was one large meal every day. There was fried eggs in the morning, and they took our recommendations, which I was surprised at that they would even talk to us, you know. But they had this committee, and they listened. And
so Ray, pretty good then.
yeah, everybody was happy, you know.
Great. So your efforts really helped out.
Yeah, it helped out. Yeah.
How do you feel about participating in this commemoration of the Korean War Veterans Project?
Oh, kind of honored, I guess. It came up, and I'm glad to participate.
How'd you find out about it?
I got an email from Ink Chung. Got started, and I checked it out with my commander of the Korean War Veterans Association,
Who's that?
John Barwinzak.
What did he say?
He said, "Oh, it's a qualified program. They're working at it from Syracuse University." And
why are you interested in participating in this project?
pardon me?
Why do you want to participate in this project?
Well, it was a memorable time for me when I was a young guy, and I wasn't really called, but I was in college, and there was a possibility, a 100% possibility of being drafted, and I didn't want that, so I selected the Air Force and joined the Air Force for 4 years.
Did you join with Ted? Was he in the same
No,
group as you?
with
Different era, different time?
Neil, you mean?
Yeah, Neil.
No, I was there from 1952 to 1953, toward the end of the war.
Did you go to the same recruiting station in Syracuse?
Probably, yes, yeah, Chimes Building. My train left Syracuse at 11 o'clock at night, and my mother and father took me over there and put me on the train. And I checked my bag, which was the duffel bag. Everything was in there except I had a little hand carrying thing with some toiletries and stuff in there. And I had to go to Chicago and go on to California. And when I got to Chicago, it wasn't a regular train station. It was the backyards. What had happened was the trains went on strike, and my bag did not get on the same train with me. So my bag was in a baggage compartment, got stopped in Detroit or someplace, not Chicago. So I said, what am I going to do? All my gear is in that bag. So I went to the baggage man, and he said, well, what we can do is parlay the bag through. There's a parlay ticket, which means part of your ticket gives you transportation to the other station, and you get on the other train and finish your trip. So we can parlay that bag through when it comes in. So I said, okay. So I met a couple of buddies, and we went on the next train, which was a beautiful Zephyr, the San Francisco Zephyr with the upstairs and downstairs and the viewing, you know. And all I had was the clothes that I was wearing and a raincoat, I think. So got to the other station and said, is the bag in? No. So I explained it to the train master, cargo guy, and he said, well, we'll watch for it, and we'll have to keep checking with us, and we'll have to let you know. So I was on a detail while we were waiting for a ship, and every night I would call this guy, and he was in, it was Camp Stoneman we were at in California, and he would call the train guy and see if the bag came in. Well, lo and behold, one night he said, "Yeah, your bag is in." My father was tracing it, and I was tracing it. "Your bag came in. Good. I'll come down and get it." So I went to the sergeant the next day and said, I got to go in town to get my bag. He said, and that morning, I backtracked a little bit. That morning, I was assigned a ship number, a line number. They give you a number to get on the ship. He said, why didn't you get it earlier? I said, it just came in last night. So I spent, I don't know, $20 each way to get my bag, and I was all set.
So you had your bag, and you were ready to go onto a ship. No?
Ready to go onto the ship.
And where did the ship go?
Ship went from San Francisco to Japan. Took about 2 weeks.
I heard horror stories about these ships.
Well,
Good weather?
Yeah, we had good weather, and I lucked out. The way they assigned the details. I'm not normally a lazy person, so I'm not looking to get out of work. But in this case, I didn't work at all. They assigned, the bunks were like 6 deep, and they assigned everybody on the top bunk certain jobs, everybody in the next bunk. Well, I was in the middle. By the time they got to me, the jobs were gone. So I was assigned some detail, but it was a name-only thing. So on the way over, I didn't do anything. And on the way back, the same thing happened.
Oh, you lucked out both ways.
Yeah, lucked out both ways. Didn't do a thing.
What did your family feel about you going?
I think my father was kind of antsy. When I was in Korea, we were 2 hours behind the lines. We were at K8, which was Munsan, and a long ways from the DMZ, from the 38th parallel. And there was no danger. We were restricted to the base, so nobody was shooting at us. There were no enemies, if you will. So
your father knew you were going to be in the area where you weren't going to be in any combat?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know it ahead of time. Once we got there, I mean, they flew us in from someplace in Japan.
You have brothers and sisters that?
Yes, I had a brother. He died. He was in the Marines for 2 years. Yeah, a younger brother.
What did he say when you shipped off?
Oh, as I remember it, he was a basketball player, and they had just we stopped in to say hello to him. They were just finishing their game, which they lost, so it was kind of an emotional thing. But he was good to see me go. I don't remember the interaction between the Air Force and the Marines, but I've always had a lot of fun with the Marine guys. I like to give them the business. And my father-in-law was a gunny sergeant, tall guy,
Uh-huh. What'd your mother say?
She worried a little bit, I think. And I got married when I was in the service. Got married in '54, so that was interesting too.
Now, did you get married on a base or?
No, we got married at home and in our church, Holy Family.
So you got leave.
It took leave, yeah.
From Korea back to.
Well, no, I came back from Korea and was assigned to a base in Maine, Bangor Air Force Base in Maine, and then I got married from there.
How old were you when you went to war?
Oh, I was in my, I don't know, my 20s, I guess. I don't really.
Around 20 years old?
20 years old, I guess, yeah.
Okay. So where in Korea, you were stationed at K8?
K8, it's Munsan. It's on the western coast, way down south, right on the coast. When they would take off, there we go right out over the bay. So,
what were your impressions when you got to Korea and saw it for the first time?
Well, I thought we were right down on the base, and I thought it was kind of primitive. We had to walk naturally. We had to walk from the barracks to the mess hall, and we had our utensils hanging on your hip. You could hear everybody clinking as you walked down, so you knew where. You didn't know where the mess hall was, but by sound you found it, and you got used to it. It's quite warm.
It was warm when you.
It was warm. Yeah, in the summer. Yeah.
Did you ever? You said you were restricted to base. You never went into town.
We were allowed to go into town on a like a tour. Yeah, we got a big truck, and we drove around.
What'd you do when you got there, and what'd you see?
Just see the village kids. They followed us with the kids all congregated. They wanted some oranges or whatever we had. We just rode around. I don't remember stopping anywhere.
You were just driving around, just touring, seeing.
Touring, yeah.
You never got out of the truck.
I don't think so. Well, we were in the back of a big 6x. Open, yeah, so you could see
people
everything.
got to see you. You got to see. What'd you see when you went through the town?
Just the villagers, and as I say, a lot of kids. So that's about all I can remember from that.
Were there tall buildings, low buildings?
Low buildings, yeah, low buildings.
Were they bombed out?
No high rise, no bombing, no. There was no in my tour to Korea. There was no war symbols, no bombing, no people shooting at you. It was different.
The war was pretty much over.
The war was pretty much over. They were still flying. We were flying missions all the time.
We were bombing.
We were flying like they call them a rock alert, I think they call it, where there was 4 airplanes, and they would take off and fly, and they would get called in for different hills to hit, and they would come back. And one incident that I can remember, I don't know if I'm getting ahead or not, but one incident there, these planes came back and they had to be refueled and any maintenance done on them. Well, it seemed like there was a 50 caliber gun that was stuck, wouldn't fire. So the weapons people were up on the wing, fixing this gun, and the tanker came in and backed up to the plane and was refueling. And when the gun cleared, it went burp and hit right into the tanker. And the tank driver had sense enough to pull that vehicle out over to the other side of the runway and of the taxiway, and probably saved the airplane, but the airframe was still warped, and
so the truck did erupt into fire.
It caught fire, and it must have been not a big fire at that time, but he did pull it over, and it did burst into flame, and the gunners got chastised and broken from sergeant down to private, I think.
Because of the error.
Because of the error.
They were just trying to fix it.
Yeah.
There was no intent.
No, there was no intent. It's just that there was a rule that two of them shouldn't have been there at the same time. I mean, the armament guy and the refueler should not have been there at the same time. I was an electronic technician and a manager. I had charge of we had, our specialty was the bomb sight, the gun sight, two radar pieces, and then we had a little shop, and I was in charge of the technicians in the shop.
So you had like a team of people that would repair these?
Repair them and tweak them, tune them.
And what were they used for?
They supplied they would tell the range. There was a range finder on it. They would tell the range of the airplane ahead of you, because they had to be within basically 1,000 feet would be optimum for firing, for hitting, so your guns would converge at 1,000 feet. And then it supplied a reticle, a circular light that went on the windshield, a special windshield. And when the airplane was fully in there and the range was at 1,000, they could fire.
What kind of aircraft were these?
These were jets. These were F-84, F and G jets.
They're fighter jets.
Fighter
like
jets.
These big aircraft, like Neil was talking about the B-29s or anything.
No, these were fighter bombers. Yeah, they carried the bombs, and the armament guys. I was amazed at them because they'd drop those bombs, drop them off the truck, and treat them like they were nothing. But without a fuse, they were safe, I guess.
And how many personnel were on these jets?
Just one.
One?
Just a pilot. Just a pilot, yeah. And we would, as they flew the missions, we would pre-flight our equipment, make sure it was good, start it up, and then when they came back, we'd greet the airplanes, talk to the pilot, see if he had any problem.
What were the living conditions like where you lived and stationed on the base? I mean, you said you did KP duty, you had food.
In Korea?
Yeah, was it hard? Was there a lot of downtime at all while you were stationed there?
Yeah, there was a lot of downtime waiting for the planes to come back. The barrack situation was those canvas cots, and there were I don't know, 20 or 30 guys in a hut, the Quonset huts. They were cold in the winter, colder than blazes.
Those metal long tubes?
Those metal ones. Yeah, and there was no insulation in them. It wasn't really bad, but it was primitive. It wasn't.
So you'd get up in the morning, go eat breakfast, and then do your radio repairs and
radar. Yeah.
What was your opinion on Korea, the Koreans, and the South Korean Army? Did you have any interaction with any of the ROC, Republic of Korea soldiers?
No, I didn't. I didn't see them. We were Air Force, so they didn't. There were other Air Force groups or other airplane groups. British. There were some British jets there, and the Marines had their jets there, but we didn't. I didn't have any.
The South Koreans didn't have any jets?
No.
They were mostly just land based.
Yeah.
And the Allies had the aircraft.
Yeah, other aircraft, other allies. Yeah.
So there was no soldiers from South Korea.
Not that I met. No.
Okay. This question is threefold. What were the most challenging, then the most difficult, and the most happiest and rewarding memories? What was the most challenging thing that you remember while you were in the war?
Oh, probably being away from home and being away from my girlfriend, and you're kind of isolated as far as family ties are concerned. We didn't have the internet like they have today. You go for quite a while without hearing from people from home.
Did you get any letters?
Yeah, I got letters, but they would be sporadic. Challenging. Just took it as it come, I guess. We were young. We were young then.
Were there any difficult times?
Difficult?
Difficult besides being homesick.
In the winter. The winter was cold, but they supplied us with some nice equipment. Down overalls and jackets with a hood, good boots. No problem there. But it was just the winter.
What about the happiest moment? Was there any happy day that you can remember, any particular or rewarding day that?
Well, just when the tour was over, got to go down and meet the airplane and get at it.
And how long were you there?
I think it was like 13 months. When I first was assigned to Japan, my tour was like 3 years. But then when I went to Korea, the tour was knocked down to about 13 months.
So they cut it in half pretty much.
They cut it in half. It was nice.
It was like active duty was like a godsend.
Yeah, like a reward. Yeah.
So that was a reward. Do you have any other favorite memory or worst memory? Anything happened that was worst thing that ever happened while you were there? Do you remember anything bad memories or?
No, I can't think of. Did have an accident on the base. I wasn't involved, but an airplane was loaded and ready to take off, and the pilot discovered that there was some. And he was parked down at the end of the runway. There was some smoke coming from his airplane, and he called the firemen. And of course, they responded, and they came down, and they were actually inspecting the airplane and looking up the tail when the thing blew up. And I don't know. I saw them being lifted into the from the ambulance going in the hospital. I don't know whether I assume they died.
The pilot?
The responding firemen.
The pilot survived?
Pilot survived, yeah.
But the firemen, the responders, it happened.
Yeah.
That's
vague because I was a bystander. I wasn't really involved with it,
Were there any jets that went off and never came back that you know of?
No, I wasn't that close to them. We did have an accident on the base. It wasn't with the jets though. We had a wing, an airway. There's a jet wing, and then there was another wing of B-26s. And Neil was talking about the B-26, and they had these loaded with incendiary bombs. And somebody, guys were in there working and everything. They actually hit a switch, dropped an incendiary, and set the plane on fire. And that plane set others on fire. And it was so hot that it warped the airframe of a jet across the runway, across the parkway.
Intense.
So it was intense.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Were there any battles that you knew of that the jets took off and did that you might know about, or any friends hurt? Did you know of any battles they went to fight in with the jets?
Yeah, we had missions where all the airplanes had to go. Any airplane that was flyable flew, and you could see them all circling and waiting for everybody to get with it, and then they would take off on big missions. But what the target was, I don't know. We were concentrating on our electronic equipment and not
making sure that was working.
To make sure it was working. And
now, did they put this equipment on the jets with them, or was it?
It was built in.
Built into the jet.
It was built in. Yeah, these airplanes, there was a cowling in front of the pilot, and it lifted up, and then you were able to get at your electronic equipment.
And this was to particularly help the pilot aim at his target?
Aim at his target and tell how far away the target was. It was kind of a primitive radar as far as that was concerned.
They would tell him to fire at a certain time to hit his target at his rate of speed. As they say, when the airplane was in the reticle and filled it in properly, and his rangefinder said he was close enough, around 1,000 feet, he'd pull the trigger. A lot different than the laser technology.
I just can't believe they're like the Navy is will hit a ship miles away that they can't even see. Unbelievable.
It's amazing how we succeeded with the primitive technology.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
And thanks to you guys keeping that equipment up, it helped them even more.
Yeah.
Imagine if you didn't have that.
Yeah.
You just do it by random guessing. Upon return from the war, do you have any dreams or any nightmares or reflect on it at all? Do you wake up in the middle of the night and say anything?
No, I don't have any nightmares. No, I just try to forget that, that I wish I was young again, but that's not going to happen.
Do you have any animosity towards the opposition, the North Koreans, or any of the allies that they had? Negative thoughts or feelings about the war that took place? Do you have any resentment or animosity against the North Koreans for what they did?
No, I didn't know them. It wasn't, we didn't have any interaction, so I have no reason to, other than the fact that we were on the opposite sides.
So you just felt that they were doing their job and
I was doing mine. Yeah.
Do you think they were right in doing what they did, invading South Korea?
No, and as a matter of fact, we were just over there not too long ago for revisit Korea, and the DMZ is still there. And we were informed that they have 50,000 of our troops still in Korea, and the animosity between the two lines is still highly visible.
There's a lot of prisoners of war still there.
Is that true?
That's what you're saying? You're saying 50,000?
Well, no, the 50,000 is active troops in South Korea.
50,000.
50,000
Okay,
of American troops in South Korea.
They're protecting.
Apparently helping protect and train South Korean guys.
When you went to Korea, you were there once, twice? How many times did you go back to Korea?
Just once.
The one trip?
Just one trip, yeah.
What was your opinion of Korea when you were there and when you returned? What was your opinion?
Oh, from
the time you were in the military in the Korea War?
Well, when I was amazed that we went to Seoul. We weren't allowed to go back to Munsan, but in Seoul, there were all high rises all over the place, heavy traffic, a truly modern, large city. I was amazed.
It's westernized.
Westernized, yeah.
Pretty much,
yeah.
Almost like New York City.
Yeah. 6 lanes of traffic downtown.
6
I guess so.
What are your feelings about the war as opposed to now? I mean, do you think that it was the war that created Korea today? Was it a worthwhile thing you did?
Well, all I know is that our interface with the Koreans today, they're very, very appreciative of us being there. They couldn't do enough for us. We received medals down in Syracuse, where the ribbon goes around, that medal, and any interaction with them, with the Koreans today, they're very appreciative.
Did you meet people on the street in Korea that recognized you as an American, a soldier, or a Korean War veteran? Were you did they identify you at all?
No.
At any functions?
No. Well, no. We had some functions, like a dinner, that we were able to speak at, but.
Did you speak to any civilians on the street at all, or any communication with people?
No, not really.
Just at the functions you had. What do you think about the politics now between Korea and the United States?
South Korea?
Yeah,
you mean South Korea?
South Korea.
I don't know. I guess I would not have any opinion on that. I know that from what I've a little bit I've heard, that their correspondence and interaction is amiable, but I don't know any particulars. I couldn't back that up. But just what I've heard.
Did you ever think about Korea lately? I mean, I talked to you about maybe having bad dreams or anything. 60 years ago you were there, so do you ever think about Korea and what happened over there today? Do you have any days that you might think about Korea?
I don't think so.
What about, we talk about the legacy of the people from the Civil War. We talk about the legacy of the people from the War of 1812. We talk about the legacy of the people from World War II, the legacy of World War I. What do you think, what would you say about the legacy of the Korean War veteran?
Well, it's being kept alive by the Korean War Veterans Associations all over, and they're pretty strong in this area. I get the newsletter from I belong to the Syracuse group and I belong to the Auburn group, Barwinzak's. I would say that it was considered a police action and a forgotten war, but it's been kept. The interest in the remembrance has been kept alive by the veterans associations, but by the Korean people themselves.
So when you hear the word forgotten war, what do it hurt? Does it hurt that anything?
Yeah, I don't think any war should be considered forgotten. But when we came back, there wasn't any big hoopla, but they didn't ignore us either. So it just came back and returned to civilian life.
A few years from now, what would you like to say to the future generations into the camera about listening to your interview? What would you say to these young kids watching this? When you're gone and they're watching this, what would you say to these young kids?
Well, we have to defend our country and our flag, and we have to fight for the freedom. Freedom is not free. We have to keep it alive. I wish I could remember that term that they use. There's 300,000 people in the United States who are sovereign, or not, pay no attention to legal authority. I couldn't believe it. I mean, that's the basis for our society keeping it going, and I would encourage the young people to defend their country, to serve if they get a chance, and I also think that if we trained our young people and enlisted them in the service for 2 years mandatory, which some countries do, in between high school and college, or sometime in there, that we would be not only be prepared, but they would be trained, and they would understand what's going on.
South Korea does.
Do they?
You have to have 1 or 2 years in the military, no matter who you are. You could be a famous person. You have to go and serve your country for 2 years. I know when I was over there visiting, there was these musicians, actors, doctors. Everybody has to put in time. Yeah, I think that's a great thing. Great thing. I think your thoughts are very good. I mean, that would be good if everybody just naturally just did that, not like selectively. You can't go, or you're too good to go. I look back and at my friends in my senior class in high school. We went to a Catholic high school, and there were only a few of us. One guy went in the Coast Guard, and another guy and I went in the Air Force, and but my buddy, who went to Notre Dame and became a doctor, he didn't have to go in the draft. He didn't have to go in service, and you just wonder what happened, between the lines in those deferment. That's another thing I forgot to mention. When I was in college, I was doing well. I had the money. I put myself through, and I for the first semester, and I had the money for the second semester put aside, and this pre-draft notice came. I guess I must have been like a draft number. I don't remember exactly what I got, but I got something that was
pretty authoritative. I was going to Lemoyne. I went to the Jebbies at Lemoyne and said, what can you do for me? How about a deferment? They wouldn't promise me anything. And that's when I decided that I would enlist.
I heard you had a story when you went to Korea. You went to a place called the VFW.
Oh, yes.
Can you explain that story? I mean, there's a VFW in Korea, in the city, and we have them here in America, but what was it like to go to VFW? How'd you get
Well,
there?
it was just like old home, but one of the several of the people that were with the group decided they wanted to visit the VFW. So they researched it. What's the address? They went online. What's the address? And we I don't know, three of us got together. It had the post name on it and a symbol of the a couple of guys that were killed in South Korea.
Do you have any artifacts or history that you brought back from Korea? Books, photographs, maps?
I have with me today and I gave him to In Chung my slides. I took a lot of 35 millimeter slides when I was in the service. I have a lot of their personal slides and those from Korea, and they're going to try to reproduce them onto a disc.
Very nice.
So.
Well, Ted, it was wonderful interviewing you, and this will be going down into posterity forever. You'll be seen forever on this website.
Play it again, Sam.
Okay. I want to thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you.
Very much.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you later.
Yeah.